welcome everybody to today's session. Trust you're going to have an amazing time. Welcome Agatha, welcome Abdullahi. I'm sure you're ready for all the questions that we'll be asking you tonight. So this is how we're going to go. I have few questions for you that we'll start with, and then I'll throw it open to the audience so that they could also ask the questions. This is Fireside Chat 2.0. We had 1.0 sometime last year, and the whole essence was to be able to give founders the opportunity to speak to an investor and also a founder who has accomplished great strides in their own industry. Basically, to share like challenges, things that would help them in while seeking funds, while seeking investors, as well as for founders to maybe pitfalls that could have been avoided and all that. So I'm sure we're going to have an awesome time tonight. Um, Abdul, I just want to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, Tolu, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so let me start with Agatha. They used to say ladies first, so let me start with Agatha. I'm sure you've seen startups. You've had first-hand experiences with startups and with investing. You have quite a large experience in the investing part of it, of the ecosystem. So I would want to ask, what are the most important factors that you consider when investing in a startup, Agatha?
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's really a pleasure to be back, really, with you. And congratulations for organizing another of the really exciting fireside chats. So maybe I will start with a very short intro. I'm Agatha Bendik, a senior program manager at Plug and Play. Plug and Play is the world's most active early stage investor. We are located in over 60 locations around the world, headquartered in Silicon Valley, but I'm based in London. And we have many different locations around the world, focusing on investments, but also focusing on corporate innovation and accelerators. So I would say that really Plug and Play specializes in not only investing in the startups, but also seeing what is the growth opportunity for startups worldwide, not only from the investment point of view, but also from the commercial standpoint. So that's what I do every day. I work with many startups, but I also work on the other side of the same coin, which is the buyers of the startup technologies. That really allows me to understand what do startups need to do in order to be invested into or in order to find the client, because that's exactly what the startups need. They need the investment. And today we probably will be spending the majority of the time discussing equity investment, but part of my expertise also goes into non-equity investment, because I believe that not every single startup actually requires to fundraise an equity round. So now going back into the question at hand, which is the factors that we consider when investing in startups, but also when looking at startups from the perspective of working with them, introducing them to our corporate partners, or supporting their commercialization process. We certainly look at a couple of key factors here. I would say the first one is all about the market opportunity. We are looking at the addressable market, but we also try to consider whether the problem that the startup is solving is urgent, and whether that problem is actually a real problem to the sizable market. And that's where we go into the product market fit. We try to see what are the early signs of the product market fit in terms of traction, which I think is incredibly important. What has been the customer feedback? And what sort of assumptions has the team learned and identified, and then worked to work on identifying and fixing the product market fit. And that brings me on to the almost a third part, which I personally believe is incredibly important and is often one of the most difficult areas to really nail. And that's when I'm talking about the founding team and the team in general. I think it's the most critical factor in the strength of the founding team or an investment opportunity. And over here, I'm talking about the right experience, the right skills. Passion to execute the vision, of course, is incredibly important because it really is all about giving your best every single day of your life to bring this idea to fruition. And that realization of the idea is not easy and will require certainly a lot of mental strength and also vulnerability as a founder. And that's where we try to see this factor of incredible and excellent team working together. We also talk about the pedigree and the right education and the right experience coming from the past, especially for the founding team. I think if you as a as a founder of a startup don't have the certain experience, perhaps it's time or it's a good idea to look for a co-founder who would actually be able to supplement those with those experiences. So I so far mentioned the market opportunity, the product market fit, of course, the founding team. And there are two more that I wanted to mention as well. One of them is scalability potential, whether the scalability is going to be sustainable, but also whether it's going to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. Maybe for deep tech, obviously it might take a bit more time, but whether that scalability is going to happen sooner rather than later. Because of course the equity investors of VCs require that return on investment quite rapidly as well. That means that very often startups that don't want to scale very rapidly might want to choose different routes of financing, which is completely fine. But that's just to understand that once you go into the equity funding route, you need to work against time or even with time, but you need to move very quickly. You need to pivot, you need to scale, you need to address new markets, because that's exactly what your investors are going to be interested in. And that's what you need to showcase to your investors. And the last bit, I think, without going too much into the detail, would be that differentiation part. We're looking at the competitive advantage. We're looking at the first mover advantage, unique value proposition. All of those points really address the need of being different in the market, offering different technology, different features, market positioning, and that will make your startup stand out to an investor. Because as investors or as organizations that work with different startups and corporate partners, we want to see why you're better than any other startup doing the same thing or might be working in the same market. And that differentiation doesn't come very easily. And that's very often very tied with vision. If your vision is different than anyone else's vision, you are the winner truly. And that's what really interests us as investors or as open innovation platforms. So that hopefully gave you a bit of a flavor into those couple of factors that we as investors, as innovators, look at when working with startups, when investing in startups, when supporting their growth and scaling.
That was a lot more than that. Thank you so much for shedding light on that particular area. And I would just want to piggyback on that question before I move to Abdullahi. You mentioned that not all founders should actually be seeking equity investment. So, what other investments or what other finance options, right, are available for startups, and at what stage should they seek those options?
Very happy to kick off, and then maybe Abdullahi, if you'd have your thoughts on this as well as a very successful founder, of course, I think that would be very welcome from the first perspective. As I mentioned, equity investment is a really important part of venture growth for some of the startups that fit in the right scope. And so, again, without going into too much detail, in order to be investable from the VC point of view, you need to have that high scalability. You need to have an excellent founding team. So, we're looking at founding team with the right product market fit, experience, and a good understanding of the ecosystem. And that's why we always like to look at repeat founders or serial founders, because they know exactly what happens, and they know exactly the hurdles they will have to go through. Of course, that scalability part, I think you nailed that. Is incredibly important. Again, as investors are looking for return on investment, and I think that's incredibly important to mention. Now, that's the VC investment side. Going into non-equity investment, that's another side of investments that you might want to explore. And non-equity investment is basically any sort of money or support that you get into your organization that doesn't dilute your cap table. And so the cap table that you set up with your founding team and your employee base will set exactly the same state after the money has been wired. I'm talking mostly about grant funding, and grant funding is really important when it comes to the research and development part of technologies, but also grants from different foundations, from different organizations, could be government or nonprofits that will help your organization. Very often they're set there to bridge the gap between idea and the feasibility study. So that's very often where you'll get that very early seed money that will help you develop the idea. That's called the feasibility study. And then later on, where you will build the demonstration projects, that's when you have the proof of concept, but you don't have the prototype, or you don't have the demonstrator. That's a little bit more money to help you build that. Grants are very tricky. I'm not going to lie. It's not free money, unfortunately. They come with a lot of admin hurdles. They come with a lot of project management. Incredibly difficult to actually fulfill. But again, this has been put in place in order to bridge the gap between your idea and the investable product, because very often the VC investors will not come into your round without some sort of traction. So that's the non-equity part. Then, of course, you can go into different types of investments or financing methods. One of them includes, of course, debt funding, convertible debt funding or debt funding. And I'm sure that there are many other ways. Of course, bootstrapping is really interesting. That's where you never raise any money and you literally just go through your own savings, and then you basically go towards the path of profitability in order to grow. You don't necessarily have to do that immediately after you raised funding from equity investors. But if you bootstrap, that means that you don't need to raise any equity money. So yeah, I will stop there. I don't know if Abdullahi, maybe you have any other points to add. I would be very curious to hear from your side.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'll hand over to Abdullahi now, but I would also want to chip in that from the founder's perspective, can you also share what it was trying to raise funds, what you did, the mistakes you made? I'm sure other founders would like to know more about that.
Okay, thank you, Tolu. Thank you, Agatha. My name is Abdullahi Ahmad Bature. The name of my company is Skula. Okay, the name of the company is Skula, and we are in the education sector. right? A very, very difficult sector that I'm sure, Agatha, you don't put your money there, especially in Africa here, where the purchasing power is low. But then I'd say we've been a very, very lucky company. I think we have had different ways of funding. The government has given us some money. We had, a VC money and we have raised some grants, right? So I should be able to say a bit how we're able to do that. At the very, very beginning in 2020, because it was novel what we're doing, we're making sure that the doors of learning are kept open via a gamified mobile app. We're supported by the government, taken to Dubai to go see how we can actually get that product to market, just like she has said, proof of concept. So we're able to get some small support from NIDA, from the government. Fast forward 2021, we did an acceleration program, by the UK Nigeria Tech Hub, anchored by Startup Bootcamp Afritech and Ventures Platform. We're not lucky. It used to come with $15,000, but then this was just support. But after that, it prepared us to get into, a program by, our investor, and we got $100,000, which was, since we didn't have a valuation at the time, yeah, I think the program came with $1 million, and then it was a convertible note, right? So it could either convert when we raise our next round, or, it turned to debt, and you pay it back with some interest. And we were able to actually get, some grants to $100,000, right, for grants. And just like she said, it comes with a lot of work. And these grants come so you can enhance your offering. And the grant came when we launched Corey AI, which is, a tool that helps teachers generate lessons, lesson plans, and assessment questions. With the buzz around generative AI, you can see what ChatGPT can do. We were able to actually be the first, people to actually put that in the hands of educators. So since it works, we're given $100,000, enhance it and scale it, and we will help you do that. So we're still quite in that, and it will end at the end of this year. But there's a lot of monitoring and evaluation. And I'll speak to the challenges. Like I said, we've been lucky to get these three type of grants. But just like Agatha said, we are a very, very technical team. We are three founders. Two of my co-founders, are very technical. We built all our solution 100% in-house. So I think that's what everybody likes, about us. Even though I went to study computer science, I am the business person, on the team. I'm the person that speaks. So it was a good combination. It means that even without money, we can crawl and crawl and crawl. We can build it inside, in-house, and I can be able to sell it. We've been able to deploy our solution to over 120, 250 schools, within the span of 2 years. So we've been able to do that. It means that it's working, right? I could actually go meet the customer and convince them to use it, or it's so easy to use, like the case of Corey AI, and that the customers are using it. So I was lucky to have, two co-founders that can build, and very passionate about education. And the team, the founding team, we have some teachers and people that, are in the learning space, e-learning space. And that's what has been our story. Thank you.
You so much, Abdullahi, for that. I'm sure founders would have learned one or two things from your experience so far. Agatha, I want to ask, what mistakes do you think that startups usually make when fundraising? And then I'll also have Abdullahi answer the question to some of the mistakes he made.
Sure, very happy to go into that. I mean, there's so many mistakes, and I think that the mistakes come mostly from the founders' anxiety around raising money. They basically know that their startup will not survive if they don't inject the cash into their venture, and also the fact that there's so much advice around do this, do that, don't do this, don't reach out to this person, reach out like this, go to events are not worth it. I think everyone would have their own idea of how to actually do it. I think that's the best reason to learn about fundraising is to learn from other founders or go to speak to investors, which is the perfect place actually to do it today. But basically learn from others around their mistakes. And so I'm actually curious to learn from your mistakes later on. But anyways, I think that the first thing around mistakes and maybe places where founders spend their time that's not worth it, that doesn't really bring much value. First of all, is not targeting their pitch deck properly. So let's say that you already book a meeting with an investor, which is fantastic. Of course, this is already the first step, but you come to the meeting with an investor unprepared. And I think this is a really crucial mistake. Knowing and researching your meeting and the person that you're going to be meeting with, their funds, their portfolio is incredibly important to understand what sort of area of interest and investment thesis do they employ, but also to understand whether there are any conflict of interest within the current portfolio, which is why they wouldn't be able to invest into you, or maybe quite the opposite. You've spotted some opportunities for collaboration between different startups in the portfolio, and you haven't really made or done your homework. I think it's incredibly important to do that homework, to do a bit of Googling around and understand what does the investor look for. Do they invest in hardware, in software? Do they have a sweet spot for ed tech, for example? I think it's incredibly important, and that lack of preparedness and preparation is something that really can be quickly spotted by an investor. That is sort of part one of the preparation before the meeting. Part two of that is around your own business. So, it's not that you have so much time to speak about your venture, etc. Keep it very short. I think a big mistake that founders do is going into that 10, 15 minutes presentation, the first presentation. And the first time they meet the investor, they go into this really long, really overly technical presentation that doesn't necessarily sell the startup, that goes too much into the detail for what it is for the first conversation. Usually that first chat is very quite brief, maybe half an hour. Sometimes you even get 15 minutes when there are bigger funds and they have a lot of deal flow to go through. And you only get 30 minutes. And within that 30 minutes, you need to sell your product, your service, so much to the point where you cut everything that's not necessary. You have all the slides on the financials and on the technical details in the appendix, where you focus mostly on what's really important, which is there market for your product? What is your product market fit? What's your scalability opportunity? What's your differentiation? And what's your team? I would say no more than 10 slides is necessary. So that's one of the things. Another mistake is thinking that if you're not fundraising right now, you don't have to do your homework today. I think the founders and the position of a CEO has really 2 or 3 elements to it. It is hiring talent or getting rid of talent. It is constant growth and commercialization focus, and it is fundraising. And so you as a founder, at some point, once you grow your team, your role is primarily going to be meeting investors constantly, and also making those relationships with investors already today. For when you open a round in 6 months or 12 months, you know exactly who to go to. So I think building the relationships early and preparing for the round when it finally comes through is going to be incredibly important. And I think there are sometimes founders who say, I'm not really interested in that introduction to an investor because I'm not fundraising at the moment. That, for me, is a red flag, because I think you as a founder, at the beginning, of course, your goal is to get the product to market. But later on, your role is not that anymore. It's to sustain your business financially, which means also going and building the relationships with the investors. And so those are a couple of points that I'd have around the mistakes that startups make during even before fundraising.
Yeah. So I think I've made these mistakes in the early days. Uh, After the first accelerator we did, I think we had an advisor that got me into a room with an investor that was, maybe willing to just give money, say, go and bring even your term sheet, do everything. But like she said, we don't have a data room at the time. We don't have all our information in one hand. And it took us 3 weeks to get back to them, right? To even ask. It was bad. And it took us over a month or two, trying to gather those information, and that was terrible. And we're not even yet there at, say, due diligence like I've done later on, right? You want to make sure your information is intact, and that's how we lost that account. And I am very, very positive if we had that investor on board, they're like head of the Association of Parents of one of the biggest school in Nigeria, right? So we would have been in the biggest school in Nigeria now. It was not even about the money. And then again, I didn't do much research, and they happen to have invested, in an edtech company, or they have listened to a page from an edtech company. They told us that on the call, right? So again, that will come in handy, making sure you do a research before, your meeting. And like she said, look for the kind of opportunities. Now, another mistake is, finances. We remember I was very sure, we're a very technical team. We can do this. We have, we keep the records. We like good bookkeepers. We keep the records, but then we don't have an accountant. We thought it was not important, right? We don't have an accountant that was making sense of our numbers, right? And so we can't even tell our runway. We can't even tell, how much, we have. We're just guessing. We know that we can survive even without pay, but then that was bad. And then the assumption that we can survive on whatever amount we thought, could work monthly. I got that feedback from, a mentor that was saying that you are building this in-house, but if you are going to get extra hands, you'll have to pay them the market rate, and then that's not your runway. And that's terrible calculation you'll be doing. And I see it almost happening to us now that we need to build out features fast and we need extra hands, meaning that we need and I chose impact investment and very patient capital, right? Which means I should be looking at, investors that are not looking to get their money back in 3 years, 4 years, like Agatha has said, and they are not easy to come by. And you cannot keep getting grants. They may derail you from, what you are supposed to, your focus, etc. So quite a lot of mistakes. And as far as the team, we were getting people that are around us, even though we know that we're supposed to hire slow, fire fast, we sometimes keep the people that are not helping us longer than we should. And it definitely, I've seen it affect us. We're supposed to make sure that those hands we hire, as good as, the founding team or even better, so that we can move faster. So these are some of the challenges. You're not supposed to be emotional about it. These people have joined you. No, they can improve, they can grow. No, you hire slow, but then you fire fast. I think we have not been able to do that. And I've seen how difficult difficult it is for me as the CEO. And I either go to raise money to help us, keep surviving. I hope this, helps, a founder. You want to hire slow and fire fast, right? And you want to make sure you have your information ready, especially a data room. You keep updating it. And for example, some of the grants that we're looking to get, they need you to have your proper documentation. You may think you're at an early stage, you don't have audited accounts, but you have your financial statements not good enough for some donors, for example. So you want to know these requirements. Like I said, I chose impact investment, right? So the donor will want to make sure you are compliant with whatever regulation is where you reside or where you work. So you have to do these research and make sure that you're not investable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdullahi, for that insightful response. I'm sure our founders have learned one or two things so that they don't make the same mistakes that you made at that point. But I'm sure you're better for it right now. At this point, I'll just give room for others to ask questions so that it doesn't seem like I'm the only one asking questions. So please, if you have questions, can you kindly type in the chat box, or you can it's just, I think there should be an option to signify your hand. Okay, yes, Muhammad.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mohammed Sal. Thank you very much for this event, Mr. Abdullahi and Agatha. So my question goes like this. We are working on an idea, a solution that we believe is going to change the way learning is delivered online, or through distance learning as well. So, but there's this, we are not able to like do some documentation. Like this is my first time experience in that aspect, and I kind of need some suggestions or advice on what documentations should I be like doing now? What should I be documenting from this moment before it gets too late, or in preparation for some future opportunity? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Abdullahi, maybe you respond
Yeah.
first, and then
Okay.
Agatha can.
Hi, Mohammed. So I'm kind of lost around the documentation, but I'll say what I think might help you. First, you need to launch, right? It's very important if you want any opportunity, right? And then you need a pitch deck, like she said. If somebody wants to listen to your brilliant idea, you need, a pitch deck. And a pitch deck, unlike any other presentation, normal presentation where you just say things whether people agree or not, a pitch deck is a tool or a document that helps you win over, a stakeholder. This stakeholder can be, a co-founder, a new team member, or an investor, right? So how do you pitch your business to these stakeholder that in the nearest future you get to meet, right? And this is an investor here telling you that what we want is there a market for this product? Do you have any traction? Will it scale? That is, if you are looking for, a VC investor. And if you're looking for grants, what are the impact? How many people could benefit? You want to document that. And usually on your pitch deck, if you do your research and you say this is the number of people that are affected by this, you have to maybe put a link to where you got that research. So as you are reading about your venture or about your solution, all the data you get, what do? You document them somewhere. I think maybe I'm getting to where your question is coming from. So you do that. And another way to document is on your social media, the small strides, the small traction or milestones you achieve, you put them and share them with a broader community. I hope I've been able to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. Agatha, do you want to add to it?
I mean, I think you perfectly answered that question. I'm not going to go into much detail on the pitch deck side or the data room side. I think it's incredibly important to monitor your traction. So we didn't talk about traction much before, but I think traction is especially for an early stage startup, it is something that will distinguish you against your competitors. And it also will distinguish you against other potential investment opportunities that the investor might be looking at. For early stage startups or ventures, traction does not only mean monetary sales, and the go-to-market sort of traction. Traction can be seen as any sort of interest that the market has put into you, or the market has expressed that you might get to the right product market fit. So again, that could be any sort of conversations with potential customers, whether that's on the B2B or B2C side, any non-disclosure agreements or memorandum of understanding documents that you have signed with different organizations that might not necessarily end up buying from you, but they are interested in exploring that opportunity. Traction also can be participating in accelerator programs. So I think that's exactly what Schoolad has been doing, which is incredible because it gives you access to first of all, investors in a network that Accelerator can provide, which at Plug and Play we've been doing very well and across multiple different verticals. But it also gives you access to other founders and startups that might struggle with the same things. So that traction, again, try to take a look at every single good thing that happened since you started working on your venture and try to document it in some way. And I think social media is such a great way of doing it, but try to put everything on the pitch deck because you'll ultimately bring that pitch deck to any meeting with an investor or a customer in the future.
Thank you so much, Agatha, for that. I would also like to add that on our website, there's sort of like a template too for a pitch deck that you can go through to see that. Okay, Saleh Bala. I hope I pronounced it right. The floor is yours.
How can I prevent an investor from hijacking or from hijacking my proposal or project? You understand? Because in most cases, when you make a pitch, it's just as if you're selling your idea to somebody. That's my question.
I can start with this, and I can just mention that, sorry, my internet is not really great at the moment, so I turned my camera off. But I just wanted to say that the idea without execution is worth $0. And that's the exact reason why most of the investors are not going to steal your idea, because it is worth nothing without your hard work and without your connections and education and experience and most importantly, your passion. So I would really not worry about that hijacking of idea, of stealing of idea, especially that you really bring your own expertise in the market, which the investor doesn't need to have in order for investing in to invest into you. So I think that would be my point of view in here.
My question is, how do I prevent it? That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about. Yes, no.
Yeah, you can't. Sorry, can I help you?
Yeah, go on.
You can't prevent it, right? But then it means you will never get money or you will never get the customer. You will have to tell someone a list. You'll have to tell the customer. You'll have to tell the investor what you are doing. Remember, Agatha said, you can put all the technical bit, your financials, all in the appendix. You don't even need it in the first 10 pages of your pitch, right? So how can you tell your story without putting out everything? But then, like she said, ideas, are everywhere. Some of the ideas that you have are coming from something you read somewhere. So the
Excuse
biggest
me.
asset you have is your execution, the team. So
I
if you,
understand. I
okay,
understand your point. I understand your point. What the emphasis I'm trying to lay here is that I've been a victim of such. Hello?
I said you can't hide it. You can't avoid that. It will always happen if that's what you believe. I'm being straightforward, honest with you here. You must tell someone, right? So if that's what you think, it will continue to happen, right? But what an investor can be able to do for you is that you have this great idea, you have the right team to execute it, then you are able to
First of
get.
its kind in the world. And the moment you allow it to go out, you have to keep working. There's a statement she made. She said if you don't have that if you're keeping your idea to yourself, the investor will not invest in it. That's You will never get what you want. So, but in a situation whereby you decide to pull resources together, make extensive research, or let me say, try to work on yourself based on your past experiences, and then come up with an idea. Before you know, why seeking a grant and, let's say, sponsorship from an investor or government, at the end of the day, somebody will get that idea or stop it, and before you know, you see it
So you can
being
you can
executed.
yes. So no problem. So you can
Being
copyright,
executed
you can
halfway,
patent.
not completely, not as you want to execute it.
You can patent your idea, right? You can do a patent if the idea is truly yours and yours alone. Once you have a patent for it,
Okay, that makes sense too. That makes sense. Anyway, thanks
yeah.
for thanks for this. Patenting is one of it, but in another, okay, let me use Africa for instance. Let me use Africa. Some individuals, some microscopic few individuals with the resources are out there seeking for idea. Some are in the government, while some are outside the government. So the moment you submit a proposal, even though if you have patented it, at the end of the day, they will use their connection, their influences with your patent. Wherever you go, take them to court, they will always be at the top. So, so how, for instance, how can I prevent such from happening? That's my point.
You can sign an NDA, which basically means that everything that you share with the investor during the meeting cannot be then used in the shape and form that you've shared it. And I think that is certainly a way of fixing that problem. So I would suggest that. But otherwise, going into the IP protection, so intellectual property protection, patenting, etc., I think is going to be another way where you could protect yourself against such things.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
I will continue to try, but sincerely,
So
there's a hello.
yes, we can hear you, but can I go? So let me just tell you, I was being straightforward, honest with you when I said if that's the way you think, you can never protect your idea. The only way you protect your idea is by building it fast, generating traction, and everybody knows that you are the owner of this idea and succeed. If not, you either patent, sign an NDA, like she said, the idea, if it's unique, you build it and you probably be the best person that builds it. So if they did it not in the same form, do it in the better form, right? Build traction around it, raise money, a lot of money to be able to put it out there, and you are known for it, right? But like I said, notice that nobody was born with an idea, right? You can never meet me today and say, Abdullah, how are you, without knowing my name. We pick bits of, knowledge, around, and maybe you sat down and formulated it into an idea. You need the right other people, a matching team to be able to execute, right? That's what I will suggest you do. But thank you for your question.
No problem. You're welcome. Basically, I'm a counter-terrorist expert. Hello.
Can hear
Hello.
you.
We
We
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you. We can hear you.
Yes, I'm a counter-terrorist expert. Let me say we have some list of projects which we have developed, but due to our experience in the past, we tend to keep it within ourselves until we're able to get the right investor before we can release it out. So, what advice will you give to people like us?
You do a research. Organizations, every investor have, the kind of ventures they invest in. You have to do your research, right? You do your research and find the investors that are investing in these kind of
Okay,
solutions,
okay,
right?
okay,
Everything is,
okay. Thanks for your
remember what
contribution.
we spoke about in the beginning. Investors invest in businesses that are viable and are scalable, but with what? A team that can execute. So you'll have to do that research, get who is looking to invest in like what you are doing, and you'll be successful if you have something that is unique.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your contributions.
All right. Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much for the question, Sally.
Thank
Do we
you.
have any other question? Is there anyone else who wants to ask questions? We are almost running out of time. If you have further questions, can you raise your hands or just type in the chat box?
Yeah, I'm back again.
Okay,
Can you hear
Sally.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Um, One of our projects has to do with de-radicalization. Hello.
Oh, we can hear you, Sally. Proceed, please.
Yes, one of our project has to do with de-radicalization. We have identified um, um, 33 ways, 33 ways in which humanity could be what de-radicalized from extremist point of views. So, and each process entails a separate master plan. Are you with me?
Yes, where you proceed? Continue, please.
Each um each process entails its own master, has its own master plan. So we're picking one. We're looking for an investor that will partner with us to execute just one. One thing I don't want to say it that somebody will pick it. Hello?
Can
Hello?
you
Can
hear
you
you,
hear
please?
me?
Yes, can you try to summarize the question?
Okay. In the whole world, there are a lot of media outlets, including satellite televisions and so on. But unfortunately, there is no single de-radicalization satellite TV. So our project is out of the 33, this is just one out of it. Our project entails we have developed a master plan on for the establishment of such television, international satellite TV. So my question now is, what are the processes that we need to follow in order to get the right investor?
You said what
Maybe.
are the what? Sorry, I wanted to hear the
Oh,
last
no
one.
worries. I appreciate we're running out of time, but maybe I can quickly summarize a couple of points which you could take on. First of all, it will be important to summarize the master plan, as you mentioned, into a pitch deck. I've added a link on the chat. Please take a look at what does a pitch deck actually look like? What does it entail? And the second part is going to be identifying who the right investors are going to be. From what you're telling me, it seems like you might be looking more at the government agencies simply because of the incredible social impact that your venture has. So I would start with government agencies and government programs in order to find the right investor for you. And it doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be a VC investor or an equity investor. Again, that's also important to share.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Agatha, for that. I think lastly, someone typed in the chat box, please, where can I get the right investor? It was asking, please, where can I get the right investor?
I think so. I would definitely suggest maybe Abdullahi, if you kindly also mention where did you get your network. But I think looking at the list and even googling the list of the investors based in your region or in Africa, I think starting with that would be really a great first step.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, there are a lot of ways you can look for investors. There are lots of platforms. There are even investor marketplace. There's what is called PitchBook, where you go write about your company and have a profile. There is a VC for a Village Capital for Africa.com. You have F6, I think it's F6. Let me get the links and share them before the call ends. And you
F6S,
can
I
do
can do that.
as, yes, F6S, yes, F6S.com, F6S.com. And this is an investor, that is organizing this. Pen Promise is an investor, right? You can reach out to them or look at how they invest. And just a Google search or your Bing Copilot or ChatGPT can bring you, all this stuff. And I love Traction. There's this platform called Traction. Let me put the links in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. Agatha shared some links to on in the chat box, so you can take a look at that, and as well as the VC4A that Abdullahi mentioned. Um, it's been an amazing time. Left to me, I would like this to go on and on, but I always like to just keep things to keep to time also. So I'll just ask for last words from Agatha and Abdullahi to our founders. So let me start with Agatha.
Thank you so much. I think the message from me is always the same, which is please try to find mentors and speak to fellow investors and fellow startup founders in order to really gain an understanding and learn from their mistakes. That's the most important thing, and that's you may read as many books as you want, but that's not really going to help you as much as learning from other people's mistakes. And so keep on persisting and keep on building the ventures that you're really passionate about, because the only reason why it's not going to work truly lies in the fact that you will just not have the passion for it anymore. You can always pivot, you can always find the right team members, but that will all end up in a success if you keep on pushing. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Agatha. You're always there first. Thank you. Abdullahi, your last words.
Well, I would say launch if you have not launched, right? And keep pushing. Don't give up. Just like she has said, don't lose passion, except if you know you are not going to achieve that product market fit. You don't have to keep at it if it's not working. And that's what your traction is going to tell you. The traction will help you show milestones and progress, or it will show you again, this market that you think wants this, do not want it. So launch, pivot, and if it's not working, you can actually try something else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would also want to appreciate our speakers today for taking all the time to share their insights and share their experiences with you. I'm sure you've learned one or two things that would be useful while with your startups or whatever venture it is that you're doing. Thank you so much, Agatha. Thank you so much, Abdullahi. And we hope that whenever we call on you next, you would always be eager to attend to us. Thank you. At this point, I'll just hand over to Ela to conclude. Okay, I think maybe network issues. For our founders, you can follow us on our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, we're on X, we're on Instagram, and I think Facebook also. The link is in the chat box. You can follow us on our social media pages, and our applications for funding are also open. When you go to our website, you can click and then you can also apply for the different things that we're going that we're launching in. And we also have a project to profit initiative targeted at students with great initiatives. So you can reach us to us at our email for like further information if you have any. We're glad to have you join this call, and we hold events like this monthly, and this was supposed to actually hold last month, but due to certain things we couldn't hold it. So there should be another session probably by the end of the month. So please follow us on our social media pages, and would also keep in touch with you via your emails. Thank you very much for your time, and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you once again, Agatha and Abdullahi, for your time, and
Thank
see you next time. Yeah,
you next time. Have a good evening.
you too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.